Good day everyone. I'm here to discuss about church lands and the agrarian history in Tagalog region. Spanish conquistadors received land grants. Spanish law required that land grants not encroach on areas already occupied by Filipinos, but this principle was disregarded in areas where population density was greater. By 1612, the greater original land grants had been consolidated into 34 ranches. Spaniards landowners sold their lands to other Spaniards who in turn mortgaged or donated their estates to the religious orders. This is the three reasons for the failure of Spanish landowners to secure their land, which is turn was sold or donated to the religious order. First is the Spanish population in the Philippines was highly transient and its impermanence was not conducive to settled land owning. A small Spanish population together with the absence of mining and other large-scale economic activities restricted the market for livestock products, which were the mainstay of early states. The attractions of the high project to be made on the speculative Manila galleon trade turned Spaniards' attention almost exclusively to trans-cosmic commerce. Ang Manila Galleon is the Spanish sailing vessel that made an annual round trip, one vessel per year, across the Pacific between Manila in the Philippines and Acapulco in present Mexico during the period 1565 to 1815. They were the sole means of communication between Spain and its Philippine colony and served as an economic lifeline for the Spanish and Manila. By 1896, four religious orders owned 21 haciendas in the provinces surrounding Manila. The Spanish brought with them to the Philippines their ideas of land ownership, which is the economic uses of land in early period, like cattle raising, rice production, and sugar production. The religious orders invested thousands of pesos in the improvement of their estates and called upon the colonial government for help in supplying their labor needs. In Latin America, the state aided the haciendados and miners for providing them with drafts of corvée labor, known as departamentos. So, ang corvée labor or departamentos is a system by which the crown allowed certain colonists to recruit indigenous people for forced labor. So, this is a form of unpaid forced labor which is intermittent in nature and which lasts limited periods of time. Departamentos for Spanish colonists were abolished in the New World at about the time that land was being granted in the Philippines. So the practice was not introduced in the Philippines. However, the state continued to draft labor for its own needs. Timber for ships and galleons had to be cut in the mountains, and naval yards built and maintained. The Filipino peasant living in one of the provinces near Manila gave up a month each year to this task, and if the call came at the wrong time, he might be unable to plant or harvest his crops. So, ang tinutukoy dito na tasks is yung economic uses of land, such as cattle raising, rice production, and sugar production, which is the ideas of Spanish people. A payment known as topa could be made to officials for replacement to be found, but few were able to raise the necessary cash. A new commission was given to Pedro Calderon A. Henriquez, a judge of Audiencia who set out for the province with 27 heavily cavalrymen. He issued a general amnesty for all except the principal instigators of the revolt. He promised that all the religious haciendas would be surveyed and that free access would be granted for pasturage and forage in the hacienda uplands. The desire to avoid this distasteful task gave the hacendaries another way of obtaining labor, and an institution arose which might be called an indirect repartimiento. He also issued another decree regarding abuses with reservas on the states, and in most of the town he left the inhabitants in control of the land which they claimed, on condition that they deposit the rent with the treasury until he could determine legitimate ownership. However, he was careful to say to the Filipinos that most of the haciendas land had been acquired legitimately and could not be returned.